Welcome to the Garage Gym Experiment podcast, where we dive deep into the home gym scene. Each week, we put out Sunday surveys where you tell us your thoughts on products, builds, and all things home gym related. We're here to break down the numbers and to talk shop. So thanks for listening, and let's get started. Hey, everyone, and welcome back. This is the Garage Gym Experiment podcast. I'm Adam. Jake is here, too, and we have Adam Hensley on tonight. He's the man behind Garage Gym Lab and the creator of the Preacher Pad, which I feel has to go with his intro for how that product has been blowing up recently. Adam, man, how's it going?
It's going great, guys. Thanks for having me on again. Looking forward to chatting and talking to you guys for the next hour or so.
Sweet. Well, we're going to interview Adam in part 2 of this podcast. We're going to get a chance to talk to him about his second gym build and, of course, the Preacher Pad for a little bit, too. But in part 1, we'll discuss issues that home gym owners face. So with that, Jake, take us through those numbers.
Thank you, Adam. And thank you, Adam Hensley, for hopping on again, round 2 with Garage Gym Lab. And this is the second time we've discussed home gym issues on the podcast as well. So the last time we did this was in November. So 6 months later, asking the same questions. And it's basically a list of 13 different questions. I should say 13 different topics that we asked about in the survey. And you simply needed to select either low issue, no issue, medium issue, or high issue. So again, 13 different topics that we will discuss. And we'll start with the biggest issues. So number 1 issue right now for home gym owners, according to the data, is the price of attaining more equipment. Number 2, the lack of space for the home gym. And then number 3, as I'm sitting here in my 85-degree garage, is temperature control. So as I mentioned, we did this survey last November, and these were the top 3 issues we saw then as well. And then just diving into the actual numbers a little bit more. So about 1/3 said that the price of obtaining equipment was either a minor issue or not one to begin with. So 2/3 said it was at least medium. Lack of space was at 39% for either not an issue or minor issue. So those two were actually quite a bit ahead of temperature control as the biggest issues on the list. I don't think there are any surprises here, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, this isn't a surprise to me at all. These would be my big 3. Just being in South Carolina where it's super humid, temperature control rather is always something to deal with. It was 90 degrees here and today, and it's going to get over 100 by the next few weeks. So that's something that we're always contending with. But I would say for me, lack of space is the biggest obstacle, just because I have a lot of stuff that I would love to add, but have to be considerate of how things are laid out, where things go, if you've got garage rails interfering with things, etc. So yeah, space would probably be my biggest one, with price and temperature rounding out the top 3.
Yeah, and we got to discuss the pricing issue last week. And I think that's going to continue to be a major issue, not only because, whatever's going on in people's personal bank accounts, but just the fact that steel prices continue to go up. When you do the inventors roundtables, hearing how they, pay 10, 20 times, the original cost for steel and shipping, it's going to get passed down into the product as well. So I think that's going to continue to grow into be a larger issue. Definitely the number 1 for me. Temperature control was an issue when I was down kind of in Adam's space in the world. But now that I'm up in the Midwest in a basement, it's no longer an issue for me. Nice and cool, about 60 degrees right now. It's nice down here in the basement.
One of the few benefits of a basement gym.
I will say I do miss doing standing overhead presses. It's something I can't quite pull off. So, yeah, there are definitely parts I miss about the garage, but temperature is not one of them.
Yeah, I think here in Indiana, in the garage, I would say when I first started out with my home gym, temperature control was definitely the biggest issue. I had no extra heat or no extra cooling strategies in the garage. So the workouts were definitely affected quite a bit. I guess, Adam Hensley, I'd be curious to hear if you have any recommendations for keeping cool, since you have to deal with it more out of the year than like someone here, like in Indiana, where if I can get through a few months of the tough times, it's not too bad. So
Yeah, there's really not too much you can do if you don't have a well-insulated space. So I've had 2 gyms here in my region. I had one in my last house in Charlotte, one in my current house here in South Carolina. And the house that I'm in now is much more insulated. So I share 2 interior walls with my house. My daughter's bedroom is right above, and I have an insulated door. Whereas in my last house, I had one shared wall with nothing above. It was just an empty cavity. And the difference was pretty dramatic. So even in the summer, I can maintain pretty reasonable temperatures inside of my garage as long as the door is closed. But when I open it up, it gets that sort of stagnant air sort of in there, and it really heats it up pretty quickly. And then, you start introducing fans, which are great for generating airflow, but at the end of the day, you're still blowing hot air. So it's not doing much in terms of cooling, but it does make it, I guess, a little bit more comfortable. And then they've got the swamp coolers that you can grab you can throw ice in there and kind of blow some cooler air through the system, but you can introduce some wetness in the actual room. And I tend to not recommend that just because you don't want to get any of your equipment, any moisture involved. So yeah, it's really just grind it out, hope for some insulation in your space, and if you need to, get some air flowing to tolerate it a little bit better. How about you guys? Do you have any tricks up your sleeve?
I mean, I agree with you. The insulation is the best thing that you can do. Outside of that, it's more like you just have to deal with it for the worst part of the years on the warm or the cold side. But yeah, insulation would be the big one. I haven't personally made any sort of investment in. I've never found myself having too much success with the small investments, I should say. So like the fans you mentioned, those don't do too much. And then if you stand in front of a fan, you almost get cold, or like the sweat gets cold and your workouts are interrupted, at least for me. And then the small heaters, you have to turn on like hours before if you want to have any sort of influence on the temperature.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, insulation for me is the big one.
Yeah, when I was in the garage lifting, like in the South, my suggestion is like but just pick the right time of day to train, early mornings or evenings when the sun's going down. And then it was almost better for me to roll the barbell outside the garage at that point because that stuffy air was inside. So I'd wait till the sun was, on its way down, and I would get outside, and that was the only way I could really tolerate it.
Yeah, I mean, right now I am lucky enough to have a heated and air conditioning garage. I don't have the air conditioning on right now because it would be too loud for this podcast. But anyways, let's move on. So medium issues. So this is number 4 through 6. Amount of equipment, keeping the home gym clean, and distractions were deemed as medium issues. So going right into the numbers, all of these had about 6 to 7% vote as large issues. So really not a ton. And then between 19-ish% and a quarter voting medium issues. The rest of the votes were between minor and not an issue. If you're watching, you can see that on the screen. So, I mean, for me, the biggest one here is distractions during home workouts. If I'm home and my kids are home, it can be difficult to get some work done. And also, like, working from home, I should say, like, trying to get a workout in and just, like, constantly checking your computer, which you put up on the desk next to you, or your phone, because I do a lot of work on the phone, can be a big thing. If you go to a gym, that can be an issue as well anyways, if you're constantly on your phone. The home gym clean is difficult. I don't really mind it too much. And then amount of equipment, I have too much. So NA for this one. What do you guys think about the medium issues?
Yeah, for me, I'm right there with you, Jake. Distractions are the number one thing for me. In terms of the three of these, it's again, like we've talked about before. I've got two kids, so trying to work from home when the kids are home can be challenging. And my daughter's bedroom, as I said, was right above me, so I'm limited in the times that I can work out because if I'm playing and banging while she's sleeping, then that's not going to go over too well. So that's certainly a big one for me. And then keeping the home gym clean is something that I actually really kind of take pride in. I've always enjoyed sort of keeping a tidy gym, which is one of the reasons why I've had so much anxiety over the past few months because my garage has been a mess while I've been waiting to get into this new space. But yeah, I wouldn't really consider that an issue of mine, just something that I think is really important for me. And I think a lot of people could benefit from in terms of keeping a tidy gym, an organized gym, just in creating more efficiencies in the gym and creating a more, pleasant sort of experience.
Yeah, I like your take on that, Adam. When your gym space really takes over and becomes like your number one hobby, cleaning it is almost a pleasure. And I'm a mess. Like you see my car, my house, I'm a slob, but I do enjoy keeping the gym clean to a point where if my wife comes down and works out and doesn't put one little thing away and I make a big deal out of it, she's like, "Are you serious? That's what you're getting on me about?"
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost fun. It's I got to put it back and it's like a Lego piece. You put it all together, you put it up on your shelf and you just look at it. It's oh, that's perfect.
Yep.
So
yeah, my wife gets on me because I tend to keep the gym cleaner than the rest of the house, or certainly my car. So she'll come out there and be like, "Really? You'll clean this, but you won't clean the house, or you won't take the trash out as often as you should," kind of thing. So yeah, I'm with you on the wife complaints.
Yeah. I think a cool one just to watch is the amount of equipment, because that seems to be a major issue for a lot of people in their let's call it the beginning stages of building their home gym. To complete my workouts, I still need this extra piece. They might keep around that commercial gym membership, and then as they continue to put their space together, this doesn't become an issue. And then all of a sudden we're into the category we just left, which is lack of space because you have too much stuff in here. So that one's fun to watch kind of change.
Yeah, that one will be interesting to see how it changes over time, specifically with more versatile equipment coming. People might not miss as much from their commercial gyms. And then, yeah, just as you build out over time, it's something that you don't see as quite of an issue. Especially, I do have a good feeling a majority of the people answering the questions today will continue to answer the questions in the next 6 months, and probably answered 6 months ago. So things like that don't change too often, or they change gradually, I should say. Let's run through the minor and then even minor issues real quick. So in the minor issues category, we have not enough lighting, quality of equipment, concern about making too much noise. Those had less than 6% large issue votes. In terms of the very smallest issues, we had warming up for home gym workouts, finishing the workouts, equipment aging quickly, and then working out safely. So these four had at least 86% vote, non or minor issues. So I'd be curious to hear, out of the minor and small issues, which one would you say is the biggest one for you?
For me personally, I would say making too much noise, just because, again, my daughter's bedroom is right above, and that's, early mornings, that's nap time if she's at home, and that's late in the evening. So that sort of really limits me on when I can actually train when she's at home. And then aside from that, lighting, I think, is a key one for us as content creators to, have a presentation ready gym. Lighting is certainly important. So having auxiliary lights as well as some nice LED bulbs in the ceiling is an important issue to factor in. But the one that I'm actually kind of surprised about in this list is how low the working out safely is. I feel like I've heard more of that, and there's obviously a big reason to work out safely, and there's a large, investment from companies to produce safety measures for their equipment. So I'm a bit surprised at how low that one is, but maybe not entirely. What do you guys think?
I would say that's because most of the equipment created and that people are buying are safe. You know, you're most likely going to buy a rack with at least spotters, and I think that's the big one. But yeah, we'll talk about this in the next section too, but this is something that's actually trending upwards, whereas less people see this as an issue to begin with. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. It seems like I personally feel like it's safe to lift in a home gym. I think we all do if you take the proper precautions. I would say I expected more people to say that it's an issue.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that lifting in a home gym is very safe, largely due to the fact that companies present and produce so much, focus towards safety measures.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that the number kind of is what it is, I guess, based on the survey.
Yeah.
Going with the one that I would feel is my biggest issue out of the smallest issues, like Reno, the biggest little city. So probably warming up for at-home workouts, but it has nothing to do with being at home. It's just warm-ups in general. I never take them seriously, and then I have trash sets at the beginning of my workouts always, and it has nothing to do with being in a home gym because I would do the same thing at the commercial gym. I want to get right into it. I just want to start pumping little weights and then increase the weight as I go. Every time I'm angry at myself I didn't spend a little extra time getting warm. Jake, you said something earlier, like you always make like the fitness goal to like stretch daily, but you never achieve that goal. I mean, I'm the exact same way. I'm like, okay, every day I'm going to sit down and, when I flip on the TV, I'm going to sit there for 15 minutes and I'm going to stretch. 15 minutes, that's it. And I don't. I mean, it's the number one thing I skip, and it's probably what I need to be doing the most of. So
I feel like my warm-ups have actually gotten shorter as I've gotten older, which is probably the opposite of what should be happening. Like, I feel like 5 years ago, I was probably warming up even more effectively than I am now. And that's probably a trend that I need to reverse as I continue to age.
I feel worse and worse, like after every workout, but like I don't do anything about it. So
yeah, I've said this on the podcast too. Like, if I don't get a good warm up, then most likely my workout isn't going to be very good. I mean, Adam, I'm with you here. This would be my biggest of the small issues, and one of the biggest issues I have just in general. If I don't get a good warm up in, I likely don't get a good workout, and sometimes I find myself getting injured. And that's really the only times I ever find myself getting injured is when I am doing something that I'm not quite warmed up for. So that would be the biggest thing for me on this list. And then a couple more slides. So we have the final rankings here. This just kind of shows you how I came up with the rankings, I guess you could say. So kind of broke it out into points where each vote for a large issue received 3 points, medium issue 2 points, minor issue 1 point, and then not an issue was 0, and then averaged it out. So you can see at the top was price of obtaining more equipment, and then working out safely at the bottom. So the closer to 3, the higher, or the more of an issue, and then closer to 0, the least issue. We also did this last November. I mentioned we did it before too, but we only have comparisons for November this time around. And I see that it's kind of small on the screen. But you can see which ones had the biggest changes since November in terms of those points that we mentioned earlier. So not enough lighting was seen as quite a bit bigger issue. So it received about 35% more points, you could say, than last November. It also moved up from the 10th biggest issue in November up to the 7th biggest. A couple others above 15% were the quality of equipment in home gym and the amount of equipment in the home gym. So those we actually saw bigger issues this time around than last November. And then some that we saw smaller was working out safely, equipment aging quickly, concern about making too much noise, and then warm-ups also got better. And then I should say distractions also got better. And then finishing workouts was also there. And everything else was kind of in between 0 and 3%. So I rambled through that. Does that make sense, though? Lighting was the biggest one that got bigger, and then working out safely was something that we saw as a smaller issue.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, the not enough lighting having such a big increase is because people have really taken to and have a passion for sharing their home gyms, whether it's on social media or whatever, and they want it to look as nice as they can. I'd be curious to see if there was a correlation there.
I was going to say, I will take a picture of my gym, and I'll be like, yeah, I want to show like everyone like how cool this is. Take a picture, and I look at it, it's like, this looks like, it looks terrible. I'm not showing anyone this. You have to be there.
One of the last podcasts I had with Preston from Texas Garage Gym Builders, so he installs home gyms. He does like a consultation and then installs home gyms in Texas. And his business has grown really well over the years. But when we started talking about trends that he's seen, one of the more noticeable ones was the fact that people simply wanted to make their home gyms more Instagrammable. So yeah, I definitely think not enough lighting is due to stuff like that. And then like I think both of these accounts and some others have like slowly but surely promoted over the last years. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
And it's relatively cheap to do something about that. So
yeah, you're right. I'm curious to see too if it's Instagrammable. I like that word, by the way. But also, we both listen to My First Million podcast. So Sam Parr's garage gym out there for his Airbnb. I'd be curious to see if that's going to be a trend going forward, to have that be sort of an amenity as a something that people can look at and say, yeah, you know what, I'd like to stay there because they got a really cool garage gym. And then it happened that your last guest was the guy who built it. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is cool. Like if you're going to stay at a place for a week, having a home gym right there is a really nice perk. Or especially if you're going to stay somewhere for like a month and you're just going to work there, if you have the ability to work from home. So, and he's the type of guy that the word will spread among the, relatively wealthy. So,
right.